worth remembering that what's just happened in the Middle East and the Western reaction to it is also not new. It repeatedly happens that it becomes difficult to sustain some favored dictator. It's happened dozens of times in the past years. And there's a standard game plan, which is being followed this time as well. What you do is support the dictator with expressing your love and so on until the last possible minute. And then when it becomes completely impossible to continue, maybe the army is turned against him or the business world shifts against him or something like that. At that point, send him off to pasture somewhere, so I forget about him. Sometimes put him on a U.S. Air Force plane and fly him into exile with half the country's treasury that he happened to be hating. Anyway, put him aside, issue ringing declarations of your passionate love of democracy and freedom and so on, and then try to restore the old regime as much as possible. Now, that's happened so many times that it takes a real dedicated amnesia to fail to notice that what's happening now is routine. It's happened in the case of Marcos in the Philippines, Haiti, Rhan for Somoza, Suharto, and horse killers. It just goes on and on. Same story, constantly. Try to maintain what you can. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Well, there's a good deal more to say about all this, and I want to turn to other issues in the region. Another dog that hasn't barked is the Palestinian territories, the occupied territories. They've been quite quiet. In the West Bank, they're kept quiet by an army, originally run by a U.S. General Keith Dayton, with the help of Israel and Jordan. It has succeeded. You can argue about all sorts of things to say about it, but it has succeeded in keeping the West Bank quiet. Dayton himself gave a talk to a pro-Israel research center in the United States in which he applauded the achievement of his army in preventing any even a demonstration of support, let alone action, at the time of the Israeli invasion of Gaza in January 2009. In fact, he said the army was so successful in repressing the population that Israel was able to remove forces from the West Bank to Gaza to participate in the attack. But that impressed the Obama administration as well. Senator John Kerry is sort of Obama's point man for the Middle East. He's head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And he gave an important speech right after that, in which he said, Israel has been desperately seeking peace for decades, never had a legitimate partner, couldn't get anywhere. But finally it has a legitimate partner for peace, the Palestinian Authority. And he had one bit of evidence, what I just described. By now, the Palestinian Authority has a U.S.-run army that is able to repress the population sufficiently so that even a demonstration of support for or protest against the Gaza atrocities that couldn't happen. So now things are looking up. There's a chance for the democracy of peace. And again, an insight into ourselves and our own more sort of progressive elements, and we'll talk about the harsher ones. Well, that's the West Bank. In Gaza, Hamas is in control, and they are very tough. They're like Saudi Arabia, so no protests there, no uprisings. I should mention, incidentally, that if maybe it's obvious that if what didn't happen yesterday in Saudi Arabia had not happened in Iran, there'd be front page headlines, outraged editorials, government statements, terrible dictatorship, protest. I haven't read today's papers, but I don't expect. I'll be pleasantly surprised if there's anything like that about Saudi Arabia. Very much surprised. Well, that's the quiescence of the territories is partly just repression, but partly it's the residue of the extreme violent repression of the Second Intifada. It took a while for that to wear off. Well, there are many complicated problems in the world where it's very hard to even conjure up a solution. Say, Kashmir, difficult to think how it's lead. But this is actually one of the easy ones. There's a very simple solution, short-term at least, solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict, and furthermore, everyone knows what it is. There's an overwhelming international consensus, has been for decades, on a straightforward settlement, short-term settlement, namely a two-state settlement on the international border, maybe some mutual modification, with rights, guarantees of the right of peace and security of all states in the region, including Israel and the new Palestinian state, within secure and recognized borders. That word I've just quoted from UN 242, 1967, which everyone, all sides, recognized to be the primary diplomatic document. Well, that proposal has been supported by essentially everyone. It's theoretically, Europe supports it, not very seriously, but in words at least. The non-aligned countries support it. The Arab League, states of the Arab League support it, and even go beyond. The same is true of the Organization of Islamic States, which includes Rhan, strongly supported. And in fact, it has even come to the Security Council, very much in the words that I just quoted. In January 1976, the Arab states submitted a resolution, which I just closely paraphrase. It was vetoed by the United States, again in 1980. I won't run through the rest of the record, but it's quite consistent. The General Assembly regularly has votes, overwhelming votes, almost everyone, but maybe 2 or 3 opposed. The United States, Israel, some Pacific Islands sometimes, almost every year. The most recent one was just a few months ago in the General Assembly. It called for an end to expansion of settlements and declared the settlements illegal. Usual vote. Then came to the Security Council. That actually received some attention. In February, the Security Council debated a resolution introduced by Lebanon that supported about 120 countries, again calling on Israel to end the expansion of the settlements and declaring the settlements illegal. That one, a little to my surprise, pleasant surprise, Britain actually voted for it. They usually abstain. The United States vetoed it, as usual. The veto caused a lot of surprise, which is itself kind of surprising, because, as I said, this has been going on for 35 years. I was a little bit surprised because of illusions about Obama and the changes he was going to bring. All complete illusions, never any basis for them. And this is what just happened a couple of weeks ago. It was normal. So yes, there is a simple solution. Incidentally, the facts of the matter are not really a debate. I mean, official U.S. policy is that the settlement expansion should be ended. That's what Obama vetoed. As for the settlements being illegal, that's not the least controversial. It was decided in an advisory opinion by the World Court with the acquiescence of the U.S. Justice and several declarations a couple of years ago. The Security Council has repeatedly declared that the settlements are illegal. The U.S. Britain abstaining, U.S. sometimes vetoes it, sometimes lets it go through. More interestingly, Israel accepted back in late 1967, right after the 1967 war, when the settlements were beginning. Their leading legal authority, distinguished international jurist, Rhan, advised the government that any activities, any settlement activities in the occupied territories would be in violation of fundamental international law. The Attorney General of Israel confirmed that conclusion. It was even accepted by the Minister of Defense, who was in charge of the occupied territories, Moshe Dayan. He said, yes, it's true that what we're doing is in violation of international law, but states violate international laws, so we'll do it too, which is correct. They do violate it as long as the master